Hey Wonderfuls! I want to show you how I heat my 2010 Ford Transit Connect. This is where I installed the 5 kilowatt diesel heater in my van. This is not how to install it. There are plenty of good videos out there for that. If you are thinking about installing it yourself, I would recommend checking out John McKay 47, and I will put his name down in the description. This gentleman has a playlist of about 20 videos and gives a great breakdown, explanation, run through, comparison of the diesel heaters, explains what they're all about, and quite a bit of good information. Also a bonus tip for making the fuel pump quieter. It's not silent, but it's quieter. I just grabbed the cheap Happy Buy 5 kilowatt diesel heater off of Amazon, which is supposed to be almost identical to the expensive brand name ones, and if properly installed should last as long, so we'll see. So far so good. I was considering the 2 kilowatt model because this van is so small, being a Transit Connect, but I would rather run a bigger heater on a lower setting than a smaller heater on a high setting. I decided to put the heater on the floor behind the driver's side seat. I was terrified to cut the hole, but as long as everything's clear and you seal it up properly, there's no problem. I didn't have a big enough hole saw, so I used a Sawzall, and not quite as neat and tidy, but it got the job done. So the fresh air intake and the exhaust vent go out the bottom of the van, as well as the fuel line, but then that just pokes right back up through the floor. I have the intake running towards the front of the vehicle and tucked up inside the frame. And then I have the exhaust going out the back of the vehicle. And I ended up getting an extension and another muffler. Checked the manufacturer's specs to see how long I could actually make the exhaust, and added a small piece, so now the exhaust is tucked up underneath the vehicle until the very end of the pipe, where it pops out in front of the rear tire. The diesel tank is also mounted behind the seat, but on the legs of my bed. It can be easily filled from the side door, and I can keep an eye on the level from either outside or inside the van. My bonus tip for the fuel pump, because it is kind of noisy, makes that ticking sound. So if you soft mount it, it doesn't transfer those sounds and vibrations to the vehicle. But what I did was take a seat back cargo carrier and strap that to the back of the driver's seat and fasten my pump, fuel filter, and everything onto there, as well as a few other spare parts for the heater itself. I also added a little bit of foam packaging around the pump just to help a little more. So it's not totally silent, but it is quieter. And honestly, I don't mind that little tick. It's kind of reassuring, just letting me know everything is running fine. For the power setup, I just have one old 12-volt battery from a truck. Set that up with a voltage sensitive relay so that I can charge it from my van battery when it's running. It will stop charging when the van's off, and it will never draw power from the van battery itself, so I won't kill my van battery by running my heater. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the power side of things because there are lots of good videos for that. This is just where and how things ran in my van. I was scared about putting another hole in my van to run the wires through the firewall. In this vehicle, and probably most vehicles nowadays, there were already a couple little holes in the firewall under the dash, so I notched the little rubber plugs that were already in there and fished my wire through there. Hooked onto the van battery and ran the wires underneath the trim along the floor to back behind the seat, into the voltage sensitive relay, and then into the heater battery. I also grabbed a panel with a voltmeter and put that on a master switch so that I can keep an eye on the battery level and eventually have some more power options roughed in for future lighting or whatever. Another little bonus is my plastic cover for the on button of the heater so that my dog's butt doesn't bump it while we're driving and turn it on. To monitor the actual heat, I use this indoor-outdoor weather station. I keep the outside unit in the van pretty much all the time, and then I can take the indoor monitoring unit with me if I need to keep an eye on the temperature while I'm not in the van. or if I just want to see the difference between the front seat and the back seat temperature. So I like this setup a lot. It's nice and tight and small right behind the seat and doesn't take up a lot of space. In the rest of the van, I have easy access for fueling and checking the fuel levels. Some cons are that the seat can only go back so far. I'm conveniently short, so it's not an issue for me, but I want to consider that. The air outlet does make a pretty sharp bend coming right out of the heater, but I don't believe it's too much restriction. If you're interested in seeing how I keep the heat in my van, please check out my cheap and easy van insulation video. Thanks for watching. Be good. Stay safe.